about growing in our faith and sharing our faith with others. So we're talking today about going from victim to victory. And number one, out of the three things I just want to share with you today, number one, I seek God's plan for my life instead of calling for justice. And very often the victim mindset is, give me justice, give me justice. And these islanders, they looked at this guy. He survived this shipwreck. That's amazing, only to be bitten by a snake and die on the beach. If I'm seeking God's plan for my life, I don't need to cry for justice. I'm trusting in God. God allows things into our life because he's maturing us and kind of honing or shaping the rough edges of our lives, right? Do you know somebody with rough edges in their life? Don't look at them. No, don't look. Out of the shipwreck and into the snake bite, and you go, oh, could anything worse happen today? Remind yourself, maybe, just maybe, God's allowing these things because he's refining me to make gold out of my life. Second thing out of our text today, number 2 point today, I seek God's plan for my life in spite of setbacks. So how many would agree this is a setback, getting bit by a viper on the beach after surviving a shipwreck? In the Bible, we have lots of stories where people get their train knocked off the track, but God takes them where he wants them to go anyway. Well, you intended for harm, God meant for good. God can take your setbacks and turn them into a stepping stone because the Lord's hand has turned against me. Wow, she's so convinced of the victimization she's feeling, that this has come from God. God's turned his hand against me. Right? There's two ways we can view the hand of God in our life. Reaching out for help and blessing, or about to give us a swat. God's done this to me. That's how deeply she felt this victimization. If only, if only, if only. I wish things had gone differently. If only it had gone this way. And we feel the pain of victimization. The setback knocks our train off the rails. I'm going to challenge you today, no matter how big your setback is, begin to look at it that God can still use it to bring you forward. I'm going to close off with this third point today. I seek God's plan for my life with a heart of worship. It would have been easy for Paul to go from victim to an arrogant, look at me, maybe they're right, I am somebody special, I am Superman, I am superhuman, I am a God. The reason that doesn't happen is his eyes are in the right place. He is committed to an attitude of worship in his life. God gets the glory. This is all about what God is doing. And so often the victimization that many of us feel is because we get our eyes off of God. Worship songs that focus only on how good God is to me can ring empty when I'm feeling depressed, miserable, lonely, or pinched. You know what I mean by pinched? You get a pinch and eventually it goes away. Go ahead, try somebody near you. Give them a pinch. It's painful for a moment. Painful for a moment, then it goes away, right? And often life will give us a pinch. And you feel it. It might be related to your bank account. It might be related to a relationship in your life. You shouldn't have eaten that last chimichanga, and you feel a pinch in your life. And you come into church after getting a pinch, and you sit in the worship, and the songs are all about God is so good to me. And you're sitting there going, I ain't feeling it. I'm still feeling a pinch. Right? Have you ever been that way? So if that's all our worship songs are about, is boy, life is good, we're going to miss it. True worship reminds me of who God is and how his character impacts my life, especially on the bad days. Especially on the days when I feel like Naomi, who's lost her husband and her sons. When I feel like Job, who feels like he's going through the meat grinder. When I feel like Mary and Martha, who just lost their brother. In those moments, worship matters because it takes my eyes off of my surroundings, my situation, and back on who God is. I found this quote from a fellow by the name of Charles Stanley. He says this, as children, of a sovereign God. We are never victims of our circumstances. Our behavior in every situation should honor the Lord Jesus. And his word honor, I'm going to relate to my word worship. I'm going to keep my eyes on God in all circumstances, kind of things. I deserve better than this. I'll never get out of this. God has abandoned me. And everyone is against me. The same kind. It would have been easy for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to have said any of these things, or for Naomi, or for Job, or for any of Joseph sitting in an Egyptian prison. It would have been easy for any of these people to say these kind of things. But in reality, they reflect sins of the human heart that draw us away from God instead of keeping our attention on Him in a heart of worship. I deserve better than this. So at the root of it, that's probably pride. As a Christian, I am called to lay down my rights. Jesus said, if a Roman soldier asks you to walk a mile, he didn't say, I have rights, you know. I'm willing to lay down my rights in the pursuit of God's will for my life. Pride can be one of the things that creates the victimization mindset for us. I'll never get out of this. At the root of it is probably fear. A fear keeps me away from following after God's will for my life because fear is the absence of faith. God has abandoned me. Well, is that true? As a Christian, that's a lie. You've given into a lie. I want to be a truth teller. What's the truth say? What does God say about His role in my life? He has not and will not abandon me. I need to get back to a truth message. Against me, I'm going to call that isolation. Is isolation a sin? The Bible tells us do not give up meeting together because there is a mutual growth that happens when we as Christians encourage one another and build each other up. If you're refusing the encouragement of other people in your life, you are impeding God's will for you. And verse 37, in all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us. Through Him who loved us. You are a conqueror. In closing then, I ask you, which life are you living? Are you living the victim life or the victory life?